Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Burn This Podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Posey. This week we have Sam Ellefson. His debut album is called Minnesota Nice, and it is available everywhere this Friday, June 7th. Sam comes to us out of Denver, Colorado, and this album is a love letter to his hometown of Hutch, Minnesota. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Sam, and pick up the album, why don't you? All right.
We don't need no water, let the motherfucker burn.
This podcast.
I was watching old Everybody Loves Raymond episodes, and one of the slams on Amy's parents is she's like, we go to Colonial Williamsburg every single year, and the punchline is, I don't know how to break it to you, but it's never going to change. That's the whole thing.
I mean, it's true. It's like it would be weird if it did. I think that would signal a very problematic rift in space and time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we went to Colonial Williamsburg, because I'm from Maryland originally, and we went there a lot for the band that I was in with, like, you know, high school, middle school.
You were in a band?
Well, marching bands.
Oh, okay. Still respectable.
Yeah. I was a fucking French horn player, man. Very cool. I wanted to play drums, but my dad said absolutely not. Then I said, well, which instrument is the wolf in Peter and the Wolf? And that's what I will play. And it was the French horn. I didn't even know what it was going to look like until the first class I showed up for. And I was like, oh, it's big. Weird. Cool.
Yeah, I was a choir kid. And we used to have fake beef with the band kids.
Oh, yeah, of course.
We got in trouble. We got in trouble because we kept roasting them for needing sheet music, because we would, memorize the pieces because it was way less technical. We would roast them for having sheet music while we were like performing with them. And it got to the point where our director was pretty chill about it, and he was like laughing. He was like, "Hey guys, I hear you've been making fun of the band kids because they need music, and they've asked you to stop, and they've come to me. So now we have to stop." And we were laughing. It was
That's funny. Oh man, your band was a bunch of snitches. I would have just big found a way to prank you guys in the back end somehow. Like, make it a real Cold War behind teachers' backs.
No, not these kids. No.
Was your choir one of the ones where you like a sunglass choir or like a white glove choir, or like what was?
No, no, we weren't a show choir. We were like a stale like stand up and sing a cappella music written by. Well, it was funny because you would do some of like real choral music written for choirs, and then you would do like we did. I'm trying to think. We would do like pop culture songs. We would do 80s songs. You were like, we shouldn't be doing this. We are ruining these amazing pieces of music.
Well, it's funny too, because like, at least I've had this with band where we got cassettes of all of our performances, which was great. And at the time you think you're killing it, but then like, do you ever go back and like listen to any of your choir performances?
Yes, I have. So we had DVD recordings of them, and I had like a couple solos and stuff where you'd be like, oh man, I think I really killed that. You listen back and you're like, no, that was, I clearly was only competing with 50 other kids in a small school because it wasn't that good. I also have like the first musical I was ever in middle school. I was in Oompa Loompa. So Mom loves to bring that out and show people me dancing on stage. I was one of two male Oompa Loompas in the entire ensemble. So I had like a 12-inch green wig and bronzer.
That's amazing. I love that.
At the end of the special, I think there's actually a quick clip of it, of me as Oompa Loompa, in the YouTube special.
It's funny having kids doing it too, because in my memory, the Oompa Loompas have deep voices. Is that in the movie? Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I don't know how much they speak in the OG.
Oh yeah, maybe not.
In the newer ones they speak, which the newest one with Timothée Chalamet is actually pretty good. It was really cute. I liked it.
I heard that. I heard that, and like I'm gonna watch it when it comes on my TV. I just remember like seeing it when it came the previews, and I was like, no one wants to know who broke Willy Wonka's heart. No one wants to know that. I don't need his origin story.
I'm actually married now to someone my age, though. However, she is 5'2" and is often mistaken for a 12-year-old child. One time when she was traveling without me with her parents, she was given a children's menu with crayons twice. And the TSA told her that she didn't have to take her shoes off until she turns 13. And what she says to these people, she's very sassy. She goes, "Excuse you? I have a bachelor's degree." And I don't know why she says that. Because now they just think she is an incredibly intelligent 12-year-old. I got married pretty young. I was 23. And I learned that if you tell a middle-aged man you are getting married at 23, they do not congratulate you. They explain how expensive divorce is. I had a guy, he heard I was getting married. He writes me a check. He says, "You're making the biggest mistake of your life. Here's a little something for your marriage." I went to cash the check. He wrote it for 5 years into the future. And under 4, he just wrote divorce. And the check was for $25. I was like, wow, mean and cheap? I wonder why the first marriage didn't work out. How tall is Emma? Is she like 5'2"?
I don't know. I bet you she's tiny. I feel like actresses are. How tall is Emma Stone? Let's find out.
Looking up.
5'6". 5'6".
5'6". Hey, that's like average, right?
Yeah,
How tall are
that's
you?
average. I'm 5'6", so
Okay.
I assumed she would be shorter, but well, your wife is shorter than Emma Stone, so
Yeah.
that's fun.
Well, and we talked about Raymond. The
Mhm.
height difference between Ray Romano and Deborah is the exact height difference between me and Kaylee. It's like the
Oh,
exact same heights.
was that like a prerequisite for your relationship?
It was, yeah. I was like, this show set the standard for what I think a family is. So that's what we did.
Absolutely. Like, wait a second. Let's line this up. Do you have a Brad Garrett in your life?
Do I? Well, close,
Yeah.
close. My college roommate was 6'6", and he
Oh.
was like a big bearded dude.
Uh-huh.
And I would say that he's not fully, but there's definitely a couple of aspects, and I think he would not be offended by me saying that. So,
A touch of the Brad Garrett. I love
mhm.
it. I love that you're watching Everybody Loves Raymond. Is it like one of your favorite shows?
It was a comfort show. I mean, growing
Yeah.
up, that's what. Well, it's funny too because my parents, and this ties into the special, are
Yeah.
very like, prudish and
Hmm.
don't like like a
Yeah.
couple swear words happen, and they're like, "Should we keep watching this? I don't know." And you
Yeah.
go back and you watch those shows they had us watch as kids, and I'm like, this is so lewd. Like, there's
Yeah.
so much sexual references and things, and
Totally.
it's funny how in the past 20 years they've grown more,
Hmm.
you know, uh, conservative in that way. And yeah, so I've been rewatching kind of as a comfort show, just like
Yeah.
I don't have a show right now. I'm just gonna pop these on and just have it play in the background and make
No,
me feel
totally.
good. Yeah,
I mean, it's an awesome, and it's a really well written show too, and it
yeah,
holds up for sure.
it
Like,
does.
that's if Raymond is a TV is a plane show for me. If like there's a couple
Mm,
episodes on a plane, I'm
yeah,
like, let's get into it.
that's what we're watching.
Yeah, show me the grandma. Let's do this.
Yeah, every once in a while you're like, "Ooh, well, they probably wouldn't have done that episode today." But for the most part, it's like
Yeah.
what's concerning, a lot of the same issues that are kind of addressed in a goofy way, it's still
Yes.
today. And I'm like, this show is almost 30 years old.
Exactly. You're like, wow, have we regressed?
Yeah.
Was there a point that we were past this and now we're back
And
to
we're
it? Like,
back. Yeah.
I feel that a lot with when you watch old Golden Girls episodes. There's some stuff that I'm like, man, they like
Yeah.
wouldn't do this on TV today in like a progressive way sometimes. Where I'm like, they like handled a topic that I don't know that network TV would do anymore. This is cool.
Yeah.
There's like
Yeah.
a really great Mario Lopez episode where he's like a kid from Cuba who is like wins a prize under Dorothy's tutelage, but he's like technically like in the country illegally, and it
Mm.
gets exposed through him winning this prize. And
Uh,
it's like an immigration story, and you're like, oh man, I'd love to see I don't know, The Office do that? No, it
yeah.
wouldn't happen. Michael
As
Scott should never be around any kind of serious topic, I guess. So
Yeah, I wrote a paper, my very serious communication major, on
yep.
one of my papers was how The Office, unlike comedy's role is to usually progress society, I argue that it regressed it because it like
Oh,
Michael and Dwight are everyone's favorite characters and most quotable characters, yet
yeah.
they often advance the most problematic viewpoints. And I specifically used the gay radar episode,
Yeah.
and or no, gay witch hunt. That's what it was called. And like just pointing out a lot of things. Even in the end of the episode, Oscar was discriminated against in the workplace, and he got like 2 weeks vacation. And the last line is, "Sometimes it pays to be gay." And it's like that is like the takeaway is that sometimes your boss doesn't get in any trouble, and you just get like 2 weeks vacation. Like that's
Wow.
yeah.
Oh
So
man, that's
and
interesting.
that's what she said was brought back by
Yeah,
that show.
yeah,
Like that was dead, and then
yeah,
that's what she said came back. Which I do. That's what she said jokes, but it's also like
yeah.
uh, if you're not doing it with that little bit of irony in it, then it's
Uh-huh.
problematic.
Here's the thing. You made fun of this paper. I am interested in reading this paper.
I might have
If you
it.
have it, truly send it to me. That's
Okay,
so
I
fun. That's
will.
so funny because I have not heard that point argued, but as you were saying it, I was like, yo, this is something actually. Because it's weird because a lot of people are watching The Office like a ton right now. And I'm like, oh
Yeah,
no, no. Like something has felt bad about it to me because
yeah,
they're like, no, everyone is kind of mean. It is like it's portrayed like this workplace family. I mean, I guess it is actually true to life because I think workplaces are full of like narcs and
yeah,
people that don't actually like you. But it's like, don't,
yeah.
yeah, it feels bad.
I feel like the critique of the office space really rings
Mhm.
true, but when it comes to like they're trying to portray someone who is problematic in the workplace,
Mhm.
but instead of everyone being like, "Ooh, I don't like them," they're like, "They're
Yeah.
my favorite character." I love when they do that.
Yeah. Well, it's the
Like,
difference between like if you make it in a movie and then you can have a Bill Lumbergh and you can all hate him, but if
yeah,
you have to watch Bill Lumbergh every week, you're like, well, like have to make him likable in some way and you have to
yeah.
root for him. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean,
Especially in America. I'd be curious. I haven't
yes.
watched The British Office. I'd be
Hmm.
curious to see how likable Ricky
Ugh.
Gervais's character is.
He's deeply unlikable.
Yeah.
I remember watching the British Office and being like, it's their Pam and Jim are I their story is really great because it's
Mm,
Martin Freeman is
yeah.
their Jim and he's just like so sweet and he's allowed to be more like because they only have 3 seasons, they hit that arc and like you feel for them a little bit more quicker. And also he's
Mm,
like not as mean to the Dwight-ish character. Like you just, because like
yeah.
Jim, there's an argument for Jim like being a real asshole.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You
he's
know?
like hitting on someone who's in a committed
Yeah.
relationship and is saying like, "I don't want this," and
Yeah.
yeah, there's a whole line of things where it's like maybe Jim and Pam were kind of like it worked out, but
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
what happened was a little like not cool, you know?
Yeah. You would say Jim is some kind of 80s bad guy. Hey, what about
Hello, Hutchinson. I was born here, lived here for 18 years, and this town did not quite prepare me for the rest of the world. I lived here for 18 years, and not a single person warned me that I have a resting douche face. Do you have any idea how hard it is to make non-douchey friends when you look like the bad guy from an 80s high school movie? Not even the main bad guy, just one of his dumb, douchey friends. That's all I am. I get a lot of look-alike jokes, and my favorite one is that someone once said that I look like a young Vanilla Ice. And then they said, but if he'd been a Christian rapper? And I was like, Vanilla Christ. That's what I'd go by.
when on Zoom you don't. I don't know what filter you have turned on,
I think
but
it's the hair. I didn't style my hair up. When it gets longer,
oh.
I look a little less douchey unless I style it. But when
Hmm.
it kind of flops down a little bit, I look a little more average Joe, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're hiding it that way. It's just a
Yeah,
little bit
that's
of
this is how I
gel.
hide the douchiness is with yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of gel up is the thing that makes the
That's right.
difference.
That's what does it. Well, and like I open with that joke, and it's
Hmm.
partially because I think a little bit of the vibe I get on stage is when I get up, I want people to be like, I know what I
Yeah.
look like, and I see so many comedians get up who look just like me, and I'm like, I don't like what they're saying, I don't like what they're doing. So
Yeah.
I felt like, especially because that was that was my opener when I was first started comedy, and it kind of
Hmm.
rode through it as I developed into a few punchlines, and it was just such a good way to get up, especially in Seattle and stuff where
Hmm.
there's definitely a lot of perceptions around white guys just getting up and being like, I know I look douchey. I know I
Yeah,
look like this. Let's make fun of it. Let's address that, and then we'll get into other things. So
totally. No, that makes a lot of sense. I always think it's good to, yeah, to acknowledge, to break the audience's like stereotype of like what they might think of you too,
yeah,
or play into it is always
yeah,
like an important thing to do, just to kind of like let them know like, hey, no, I see it too. Don't
yeah.
worry. So you're a little bit, you're what, 30 or about?
No, I'm 27.
27. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So it's interesting that you use 80s bad guys as a like which 80s bad guys are you thinking of? Because 80s bad guys is like 20 years before you were even born, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the movies,
Well, yeah.
and really a lot of the stuff I feel like is more 90s that I think of like what is it? What's that movie that's based on Burt Kreischer's life with I think it's Ryan Reynolds.
Van Wilder?
Yeah, Van Wilder, like that guy's like that kind of a douche was kind of the idea that I was like, I kind of look like all of the douche characters in that
In that
movie,
movie.
even the rich kid and Van Wilder. And then I did a show at Helium. It's the only show I've ever
Hmm.
done at Helium with a comedian named Amanda Biddle, and she booked me. I'm pretty, I'm almost entirely clean, especially in this set. And she
Yeah.
booked me in their Dirty Dozen show to like be a funny palate cleanser in the middle when I
Yeah.
was like 23 years old. And I after I got off, she roasted me, calling me an 80s bad guy. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I can use that just kind of in the look-alike jokes that I do at the beginning of the set.
Yeah. Man, you just blew my mind when you told me that Van Wilder is based off of Bert Kreischer. I
Yeah,
did not
yeah,
know that.
yeah. I know that for a
Wow.
fact because I recently had this conversation with someone and they were like, no, no, it's not. And then I Google on like Wikipedia, it says. So
Yeah.
someone constantly goes in and edits that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a Rolling Stone article called The Undergraduate, apparently, about Bert Kreischer that was optioned by director and producer Oliver Stone directed Van Wilder?
I guess.
What the we're learning a lot of we're learning. See, your communications major is doing it right now,
Yeah, it's paying
honestly.
off. This is yeah, I did everything with communication around like comedy and pop culture. So I literally like kind of made a degree in comedy. I also have a theater degree, so I really
Nice.
yeah.
Man, I'm yeah, based on the real life experiences of Bert Kreischer. Ryan Reynolds only saw a rough cut of the movie and he's never seen it since. And after the release of the film, said a group of male college students were excited to approach him, but were surprised that he's not a party guy and he does not like being associated with the film. That's very
That's
funny.
hilarious.
Oh my God. Wow. I I'm reeling from that. What a hell of a fact. Hey everybody, look, we got real facts going on in this pod that
I just
I
came
didn't
here to
know.
drop some Ryan Reynolds bombs. That's what I came on here to
We
do.
got Ryan Reynolds bombs. We got new revelations about the place of the office in society. I love it. Everybody loves Raymond through a new lens.
Yeah,
That's a
this
good
has
way to
really
be.
gone. Yeah, like pop culture, not really like film, but
Yeah.
TV and yeah.
Hello, this message is for the people of Green Bay, Wisconsin, or anybody nearby. The really cool thing is happening the weekend of July 18th through the 21st of this year. There is a record store in Green Bay called the UFO Museum. And they do a cool punk festival every year called the Green Bay UFO Invasion Fest. And this year, for the very first time, they are doing a comedy stage that has been curated by our very own Kristen Leidy here at Burn This Records. And everybody on that stage is a Burn This Records homie. They either have an album out or they're going to have an album out. So if you live in the area, we would love to see you. It's just going to be a real fun Love Fest weekend full of really funny comics. If you live anywhere nearby, July 18th to the 21st, and you get to see Gwen Sunkel, Kristen Leidy, Dwight Simmons, Zach Peterson, Katie Bowman, me, Matt Alana Martin, Jordan Sermonara, and Anna Valenzuela. That's 9 killers, 1 festival, UFO festival. Will aliens be there? I don't know. I hope so. I'd love to meet one, but I'd love to meet you more. All right, nanu nanu. I mean, it makes sense because, like, you've obviously been a fan of pop culture for a long time. You had a big crush on Jamie Lynn Spears when you were a child.
Yeah, I mean Nickelodeon and Disney were kind of the intro too. I feel like all of that as it was for a lot of people, and
Did
that's like
Yeah. Did you feel like there was like a pull with you toward a Nickelodeon or a Disney kid?
I liked
Or
both.
yeah, I felt like more of a Nick Looney Tunes kid back when I was a
Mm,
kid in like the late 80s or whatever. But
yeah,
because Disney wasn't really, they just had Disney Kids Club kind of like that.
right.
the Mickey
Right.
Mouse Club was the big thing then. Disney,
Yeah.
like, they're made for TV movies. I think that came a little bit later, but that was like, that kind of felt like that kind of was trying to jump into that Nickelodeon, like,
Yeah.
kid TV show space.
Yeah. I kind of, I liked both the
Hmm.
shows that they were making. I mean, Drake and Josh, iCarly. What else did Nick do? Oh, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff was huge. And then Disney had like, I mean, I liked Hannah Montana and Wizards of Waverly Place, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. So
Hmm.
I feel like there was stuff happening on both platforms that I really liked. And then I also loved cartoons. I loved
Yeah.
like older cartoons. I loved Bugs Bunny, and then I would even watch Boomerang, where
Yeah.
it would be like the Smurfs and the Snorks. I would watch the Smurfs and
Yes.
Snorks every morning. Yeah.
I remember watching like the Smurfs. When you go into like deep Smurf lore, it's very strange because like Smurfette was like created by Gargamel as like to infiltrate Smurf society for him to
Hmm.
destroy it. And
Hmm.
it's like, oh, weird. What a weird, like, I don't know. It's just funny that it just goes deeper than you think it's going to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a movie in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Like the live action Smurfs. I think they made a couple of them, and it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's Smurfs.
Yeah. Ed
Yeah,
Helms is a voice, I think, right? Isn't he a
that
big
sounds right.
Ed
That sounds
Helms, Smurfs, Andy from The Office? There it is. Ed Helms, Smurfs. Ah, man, when you type in Ed Helms Smurfs, something called Ed Helms Captain Underpants comes up, and I don't know what
right.
that
Oh,
means.
maybe he was the voice of, or maybe he was the dad in Captain Underpants, because the Captain Underpants movie is the last 10 years too.
Oh, okay, maybe that's yeah. I bet he's all it's all related. He feels like he'd be a voice in Smurfs. Whatever.
Yeah,
It's good.
yeah. I talk about in the special, I talk about the movie theater in my hometown, and there's actually two. There's the
Hmm.
one where they put the flag on the screen before the shows, and then I worked at the other one. That one showed like movies after they've been playing for a little while for cheaper,
Hmm.
and then I worked at the one where they got the movies. So like movie knowledge from what was it, like 2012 to 2016, I've seen or like know everything about all those movies during the
Yeah.
4 years I worked in the movie theater. And I think Smurfs came out when I was,
That's so funny, man. I always wanted to work at a movie theater when I was a kid. That just seemed like one of those super cool jobs. Like I'm sure the reality is
yeah,
not quite there, but like it's one of those like, oh man, you're like when you don't live in like an entertainment city, you're like, yeah, you work in entertainment. It's the closest you can kind of like get
yeah,
as a young person.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, I really liked it. It was really fast paced when it would get busy, and I
Hmm.
liked the rushes. It was really fun when being good at just kind of getting stuff in and out fast.
Yeah.
Um, and we got free movies. You and a friend could go to a movie for free. We got super cheap food when we'd go in. So there's just tons and tons of perks that were a part of the job. It's funny looking back to like there's stuff where you're like as a teenager you're just like, oh, it's just dumb, and you look back and like, oh man, there's like some problematic stuff that happens at like high school workplaces. And you're like, holy smokes, I didn't even realize, and that actually like did affect me. And then I did some very Minnesotan things while I lived here. I was voluntarily in a Victorian Christmas caroling troupe, which is where you dress in clothes from the 1800s, and then you sing to people who were born during that time. And during my time caroling in these retirement homes, I was hit on more times than I've ever been in my entire life. These old women are ravenous. There was one time we finished singing, and this old woman comes crutching up to me, and she goes, "Hi, how old are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm 17." And she goes, "Oh, well. You'd be a man by the time I was through with you," and just crutched away. That was the whole interaction. No room number, no way to get a hold of her, nothing. Just got out of there. To be clear, I could have caught her. She was moving very slowly. So slowly I realized when she said that I would be a man by the time she was through with me, she wasn't bragging. Just explaining that that is how long it was going to take. There was another time some nurses asked me to hang out with this woman named Gladys. And I get into her room and she wakes up and she gestures me closer. On my way over there, my top hat falls off. I bend over to pick it up and I hear this whistling behind me. But Gladys doesn't have any teeth. So instead of a normal whistle, it just sounds like... I got catcalled by some kind of deflating balloon. But I've got my top hat on. I get closer, and then she asks me if I would like to get some. So I turn to get out of there, and I hear all this movement behind me. So I turn around again to see that now, for some reason, Gladys has taken out one of her boobs. And if her whistle sounded like a deflated balloon, her boob looks like one. She looks at her boob and looks at me and goes, "Well, your move, tiger." And I just froze. And I stared at her so long, she fell back asleep. I learned that day I am not a fight or a flight person. I am a freeze and hope the perpetrator is feeling tired person. Make it worse, that is the first time I saw a boob. That's the one. People in high school be like, "Sam, how come you never date anybody?" I'm like, "Because I've seen plenty. That's why."
You recorded this in Minnesota, where you're from, and then
Yes.
the town that you're from. But what kind of theater was this?
This was the high school auditorium. So that's
Oh,
why
cool.
when it goes wide, you can see like the American flag on the wall. It's like when they would do assemblies, if there was, the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever, that's what they would use.
Nice.
And that's like where, so after the special, there on the YouTube version, there's some like short clips of videos of me performing on that stage. There's like a clip of me in the choir, a clip of me doing, we did something called The Boys, where we had somebody arrange the Jimmy Fallon, what is the name of the song? The Jason Derulo, "I'm That Flight That You Get On."
Yeah.
And that's not, we did, we arranged that and then sang that for like a fundraiser or something in high school. So it's like clips of all of that stuff at the end. So I've been performing on that stage for a long time. So it was cool to come back and do
Aw,
it there.
that's fun.
Yeah.
Did you have any of like your teachers from high school like come out and watch, or like?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I had my youth pastor like came out and watched, and it's funny because the swingers joke where I
Mhm.
reference church, the pastor
Mhm.
going being like, "Some of those, that's not fully true, right? Like it's not all true." And it's like, "Yeah, there's some, I say it's based in truth," and I just let them have
I was like, wait, the reputation of the church is at stake in this comedy special,
that.
so I need to make sure that we're okay here.
Yeah, but it was cool. I mean, we had tons of people come out. I mean, I think between the two shows, we had like 280 people come out, and it was a big theater, so it was a
Mhm.
tall task to try to get
Yeah.
people in the space to really make it work
Yeah.
because we did it over two different shows. Um, but yeah, that was all kind of I felt like these jokes, a lot of them harkened back to when I lived there and kind of
Mhm.
transitioning into adulthood. So it was cool to go back there to perform them. And I feel like I'd outgrown a lot of them for who I was, and I was ready to move on to something
Yeah.
else. So it was just a really cool way to put closure on kind of my first like 6 years of doing stand-up comedy, was to go back there and do it like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always love it when, especially for like a first thing, when something, it's like the first special, the first album, I think is the most personal in a lot of ways, unless there's
Mm,
like something specific that happens later or something. But like,
yeah.
and I love when people can still make it their own in some way, to be like, no, this is like my career, but it's also like this is who I am, and I'm gonna,
Yeah.
tie this to myself. And like there's like powerful energy that comes from that kind of stuff, I think.
Yeah, there was a cool moment that of just where I kind of like addressed like thank you for being here. I mean, you all
Hmm.
came out to watch me do comedy and
Yeah.
film in our town and be like a put myself out as a representation of Hutchinson, and you showed up. And
Hmm.
so it was cool to have just like that opportunity in the special to thank them and transition that into like you built the foundation and also there were holes, and let me talk about some of those to close this out here.
Yeah, totally. When did you move away? Like when you went to college or?
Yeah. I was ready to get out.
Yeah.
I like it just it being so cold, living in small town. I mean, definitely my mental health wasn't very good as a teenager, so I just really
Yeah.
needed a big change of setting. And so I applied to like all the West Coast schools and ended up visiting PLU in Tacoma. And I was just it fooled me. It was sunny and 60 degrees in
Oh,
February, and then I
yeah.
flew back to Minnesota, and it was negative 30 degrees when I when I landed back in Minnesota.
Like
So
that's it. I'm
that
going
was like,
there.
that's it. That's where I'm going. I got scholarships. I'm going out there.
Sunny, sunny Tacoma, Washington.
That's right. Sunny and warm, Tacoma, Washington.
I mean, compared to Minnesota, though, I bet you it did feel like a
Oh yeah, it
balmier,
it
more
did.
exhausting.
Yeah, and it was nice because everything's green. Like in
Hmm.
Minnesota, you get some sunshine in the winter, but it's like the sky looks so big. Like there's no clouds when it's sunny, and everything is just dead.
Yeah.
And if it's not fresh snow, it's dirty and gross. And so
Hmm.
Washington, even though it was raining all the time, I felt that it was better to be out in all of the green that was
Yeah.
just year round than to be in the winter in Minnesota. But I love Minnesota. That's why I filmed the
Oh,
special
yeah.
there. But I
Yep.
just don't want to live there anymore. That's
I
the
think it's the job of a successful hometown's job is to give you a childhood that you like appreciate, but then need to get the hell away from at a certain
yeah.
point, and then
Yeah.
get a little bit older, experience something else, and that's when you like remember, or remember or look back at the things that you're grateful for that you had growing
Yeah.
up. Like I
Yeah.
definitely feel that way for about like I grew up in like a suburb of DC, between DC and
Mm,
Baltimore, kind of, and like loved it, had a very like safe childhood, like had fun, like could go like into cities, but like was still like in the suburbs and desperately wanted to leave as soon as I could. And I
hmm
think it's its job to like push you
Yeah.
out of the nest a little bit.
Yeah. To give you a foundation, but also have it be able for you to outgrow where you are to go somewhere else. Not to say that like the people there aren't growth or
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
grown or whatever, but like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
you as a person are ready to for something else in your life. Like you've gotten what you could as a child out of there. So
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it's like everyone's childhood is whatever it's gonna be, but like I always get bummed when I meet people that like grew up in like LA or New York because they're like not as wowed by things like in other
yeah.
places where I'm like, oh man, you
Yeah.
just oh yeah, whatever, I grew up around that. Or they're just like, no, this is the way it's done. And I'm like, go, I don't know. I don't know. I like didn't there's just so much that I didn't see or know about till I moved away and then,
Yeah.
wasn't as world, knowledgeable or whatever. It's like an exciting to like find that later in life, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I had an interesting experience with in LA. I was on a show in Greeley, Cowtown, Colorado last night, and there was an LA comic who was a young guy,
Uh-huh.
and he'd lived in LA his whole life in Orange County. And I could not, he was the first person I ever met who grew up in LA and was like, "Oh, you got to come out. It's so awesome. I love it." Everyone else I've ever met from LA is like, "Never go there. Everyone is fake and it's sad and dreams are dead there." And they like believe it was the first time I'd been someone like bright eyed about LA. It was so he grew up there. Like I've seen that
Yeah.
people who move there and then
Hmm.
find some success or like having fun with the entertainment industry, but never someone who was born and raised having them be like, "Oh, it's amazing. It's the land of dreams."
Yeah. Well, we'll knock it out of him eventually. Don't worry.
Yeah, he was only 24, 25. So there's
Aw, adorable. Yeah, we'll get him. Don't worry. It happens eventually. No, I mean,
yeah,
I love it here quite a bit, but I moved here later, so like I went to
yeah,
college in Philly, and then I moved out here after when I was 22, because at the time it
yeah,
was like I guess I moved to LA or New York, like I don't know, and
yeah,
and I'm not the biggest New York fan. I like visiting it, but living
yeah.
there was like I don't know. I'm like too southern to put up with this shit.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I feel about New York is like really fun city to be in. I don't know that I could live there. And just even the idea of like being married and being like, all right,
Hmm.
we're either gonna have a bunch of roommates or we're gonna be in like a closet with cockroaches. And
Yeah.
in Denver, there's not even spiders. I
Yeah.
mean, I think I've killed one spider in the 2 years that I've lived here, and it's so nice. It's just
Yeah.
so nice in Denver. It's gonna be hard for me to leave. I'm sure at some point there'll be something where I'm ready to do
Hmm.
something else. But no, it's this has been a really awesome city.
It's awesome. I love whenever I do stand up in Denver. It's just the best. It's the best time. It's such a great, gorgeous place. What brought you there from Washington?
My wife actually does stage acting,
Oh,
so
cool.
and there weren't a lot of like shows and stuff that were casting people that my wife had the description of. So
Hmm.
we're like, well, let's try somewhere else. And I knew Denver was a good comedy scene, and it was.
Hmm.
I mean, the first year was so hard
Oh
after
yeah.
like because I was featuring for some of like the regional and touring headliners in the Northwest, and
Hmm.
I was working at a lot, the clubs, and I was starting to
Established.
make
Yeah.
money and do all that
Hmm.
stuff. But I think for my career and my comedy, it got way better when I
Hmm.
moved to a new place, had to reprove myself. Denver's a way stronger comedy scene, I would say, than the Northwest.
For sure.
So it was really good for me. And then it's been great for Kaylee too. She's in Alice in Wonderland right now,
Oh,
and
cool.
it's in Boulder,
Hmm.
and you hike from scene to scene. So
Oh,
you're like in the wilderness in the Wonderland with Alice. So you go like the first scene is in one place, and then you hike, 100 feet over to the next spot.
that is the most Colorado thing I think I've ever heard.
Yep.
They're like, okay, we're gonna do like this play, but also how can we make it Denver? How can we make or
Yeah.
how can we make it Colorado? How can we incorporate hiking in some way?
Yeah. And it's,
So,
I mean, anytime I've told people like
mhm.
it's intended, I mean, it's a children's show. Of course, we
Yeah,
all
yeah.
grew up with Alice,
Hmm.
but anytime I've told someone like a comedian, like, oh, when is it? I'd love to
Yeah.
come. And like everyone who's very just like Denver is all aboard.
That is the cast all in hiking boots too? Like, are they like hiking boots like covered with like
Yeah.
various shoes and stuff?
Yeah, she's wearing her hiking boots. I think the premise is like Alice, it's less of an accidental adventure and more of she was setting out on an adventure. So
Mm.
that's kind of their reasoning behind her being a little more in hiking boots and ready for what she's,
And
not just in like a blue sundress or whatever she was wearing.
are they ever worried about like a bear or wildlife entering a scene that they shouldn't?
I'm sure wildlife like rabbits and squirrels is possible,
Hmm.
but it's pretty like in Boulder, there's like a park that's like pretty central,
Oh,
and
okay.
then there's a trail that goes up kind of like this hill mountain thing that at the top there's a view of the city.
Oh, okay.
So it's like in Boulder still that possible for a bear to make its way down, maybe a mountain lion, but I would say unlikely.
Yeah, yeah. Just be like, wait, is this a new character that we're incorporating that I didn't know
Well,
about?
that's a funny, like, just in like audience members. You can almost see it being a sketch of like, oh, that bear's very realistic. They really went out on the budget. And yeah, all this to say that I am very lucky to be married. My wife had to make all the first moves. Like if I would have done the only move I learned when I was in high school, I would have pulled out my boob and said, "Your move, Tiger." What you got? But we were long distance for a little bit. My wife wrote me a letter. She said, "Be careful. It's a little spicy." So I'm excited. But also, I'm from Minnesota, where the spiciest things we eat are like butter and mayonnaise. And I get the letter. I open it up, only to find the entire thing is written in cursive. And I'm like, great, can't call my mom for help on this one. I was like, you know what? I got a little mad. I was like, if I wanted this in my relationship, I would have dated Gladys back at the retirement home. I decided now was the time. I learned to read cursive. I read the letter. Wasn't even spicy. It was just really, really sweet. Which that is the way to a Minnesotan's heart. We invented dessert salad. Our state looked at salad and said, that could use some Snickers. And when other people are like, that doesn't sound very healthy, I'm like, we aren't worried about health. We are worried about having enough weight to survive the winter.
Well, the special is called Minnesota Nice, and the
Hmm.
album is available for pre-order now. It will be out everywhere this Friday, and then forever and ever after that. Where can people find you online and everything?
Yeah, I am on Instagram at Sam Ellefson. My YouTube page is where you can find the special if you're interested in watching the video after listening to the album. And if you just look up Sam Ellefson, you'll find me. I also I have other channels. Those are kind
Yeah.
of the main ones people are on. Facebook also, I post a lot on there, so you can just follow my personal professional profile or my comedy page.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm also on TikTok, but I got in late to the game,
Yeah, same.
so I don't have a lot of
Same.
followers. But I do, I post my stuff there too, if that's interesting to people.
Well, everybody get the album, enjoy it, and we'll talk to you later.